Hi, on this episode of the Oracle of Luna, Meditations with the Moon Goddess podcast, we have artist and writer Judith Shaw. Welcome, Judith.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is really exciting. You are a very prolific divine feminine, sacred feminine artist and writer, and I'm just really happy to have you on our show. So let's get right into it. What made you choose to become an artist?
Well, that's a funny question. I'm not really sure that choice entered into it that much. I was drawn to creative expression really from a very young age. I have this photo of myself at about age 3 or so, in which I'm gazing at my hands with curiosity, as if thinking, well, what fun things can I do with these hands? As a child, I drew a lot. I played the piano, and later as a teenager, the guitar, and I made up little performances with friends to show the adults. But finally, I settled on painting as my course when I was around 20. I remember visiting the friend of a home who was majoring in fine art at the University of New Orleans, which I also was attending. And when I entered his studio and saw the easel with a large painting on it and a table full of paints and brushes by its side, well, something just clicked. I remember I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. And from that moment on, painting called to me so strongly that I decided to study it, and I've never changed course since. And I'd really say that for my entire adult life, I have felt a strong internal need to paint. It's what keeps me centered and in touch with the deeper mysteries of life.
Yes. All right. Very good. So who has influenced you the most on your journey?
Oh my goodness, there's so many wonderful artists out there. Of course, I mean, there's just so many. They inspire
Yeah.
me with their depth and their beauty.
Yeah.
As a young artist, I was really inspired by the work of Van Gogh and of
Uh,
Jackson Pollock. Not
okay.
really very healthy role models considering their self-inflicted demise, but true
Yeah.
giants of painterly expression.
Sure.
I'm also always drawn to visiting the work of Kandinsky, Monet,
Mhm.
Manet, Degas, Da Vinci, Klee, Clement. I could go on. But at times, I refer to the amazing color genius of Matisse and Bonnard when looking for
Mhm.
resolution to something I'm kind of stuck on. I guess having grown up in semi tropical New Orleans, I'm drawn to bright colors. Later on, as I became less influenced by the art world's interest in the transition from realism to abstraction and then on to conceptualism, I came to love Vermeer's work, so full of soul and such incredible technical skill. But I have to say, as an art student, I studied art history, which of course focused pretty exclusively on male artists, with the
Mm.
exception of Mary Cassatt and Frida Kahlo, who were both always kind of cast in the shadows of their male artist counterparts. Since then, I've discovered many female artists that I love, like Leonora Carrington, Artemisia Gentileschi, Agnes Pelton, and Margaret MacDonald McIntosh, to name just a few.
Mhm.
Macintosh, who worked in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think, don't hold me to that,
Yeah.
was also cast in the shadow of her architect designer husband, Charles Macintosh, even though he himself considered her to be the more talented artist of the two. A man ahead of his time, right?
Yeah.
But what really, really inspires the opening of my third eye with visions is the art and the wisdom of the ancient world, which, coupled with my own studies of the goddess, has directed and informed my work. And in recent years, I've also become very attracted to medieval art.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I could see a lot of correlations with Matisse and Klimt in your artwork. It's just beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
you studied at the San Francisco Art Institute, where I am actually an alumni in painting as well.
Uh,
I was wondering if if this had an impression on your career as an artist painter.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's, just so much that goes on there. But
Yeah.
really, the main thing I think for me while I was studying painting at SFAI was I found a fantastic teacher there, Julius Satofsky, who
Yes,
died a few years ago. Did you ever have him?
I did. In one class, he was very soft spoken, but whatever he said was very important.
Yes, yes. And in fact, pretty much what he did is he just kind of walk around the studio while class was in session and offer these quiet suggestions and feedback.
Yeah.
And he actually gave me some feedback one day, which I really still use. I was really stuck on where to go with the painting. I was doing what I like to call painting myself around in circles. When you know it's not right, you kind of keep doing the same thing over and
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
And so he came up and he saw my struggle and he said, what color do you hate right now? What color would you never ever use? And I think at that point it was red. And I said, red. And he said, so use it, put it in that painting. It's going to
Ah,
break you out of the rut that you're stuck in and
yes.
open you to finding a new way to resolve the painting. So, I'd really say that combined with my initial reaction, my initial attraction to Jackson Pollock's method of throwing paint at the canvas
Uh-huh.
still is with me today. I keep throwing paint at the canvas and I keep trying hot color combinations.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I was stuck in on a painting and I couldn't make any headway with it. I was in I had Pat Klein as a instructor, and I'll never forget it because I was actually thinking of quitting the class because I wasn't getting anywhere. And one day she offered a suggestion of adding texture to my painting. And that opened up a whole new world, a whole new journey that I am so grateful that even that small, suggestion made such a profound effect on me as an artist and just opened my vision completely. So I'm forever grateful for her and San Francisco Art Institute, of course. But anyway, let's move on. How does your sacred feminine belief integrate with your artistic path? And what inspires you to do this?
I first began to explore what I like to call the way of the goddess in the 1970s after I read Merlin Stone's When God Was a Woman.
Uh-huh.
But she didn't really begin to make her way into my art until the late 1980s when I was living on the Greek island of Lesbos.
Oh.
While
Where is that island in relation to Athens?
it's one of the Dodectonese islands, so it's kind of runs along the coast of they run along the coast of Turkey. In
Okay.
fact, the village that I was living in, Molivos, you could see Turkey from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like an hour boat ride to get to Turkey.
Right.
They're kind of the larger islands, and they're covered with pine forest, and it's not that white architecture. It's more like stone and wood.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a really beautiful, beautiful place. But
Yeah.
anyway, while I was there, I met Carol Christ, who many people might know as one of the four mothers of the goddess movement.
Yes, absolutely.
Living there, and we became friends. So several times we went to a particular undeveloped archaeological site, and we went to other natural places, and we would do ritual together.
Hmm.
We also had lots of interesting conversations about goddess and her influence on our world.
Right.
It was really at this time that goddess first began to appear in my paintings. I
Okay.
think
What year about?
so that was like 1987, 88.
Okay. Okay.
And it wasn't really something that the art world really wanted to see, and so I think I was scared to do it because it wasn't going to be received, but whatever. She just
Yeah.
started popping out.
Part of your development.
Yeah, at that point she was very small in my work.
Yeah.
And then I returned back to San Francisco. I was still living there. Oh, well, I had been living there and I returned back to San Francisco. And early on, and so now we're at about 1989, 90, when I discovered the work of Maria Gimbutas, an
Yes.
archaeologist and author.
Yes. Very famous.
Yeah, very, very important work. She
Yes.
explored the Black Sea area of the early Neolithic times.
Right.
And at that
Especially around
point,
Turkey. Turkey, I think, was a main site
yeah,
for her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Turkey, and well, not only no, it was around the Black Sea area.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But she has three books now. But the first one that she wrote was The Gods and Goddesses of Old Europe. And then the next, I think, was The Language of the Goddess, and then The
Right.
Civilization of the Goddess.
Right.
So at that point, it was the first book, and I got that one. And her discoveries really revealed a world which worshiped the great mother goddess, mainly as a snake or bird goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And this world, which we see based on the artifacts that she found, because there was no written word at that point, it
Right.
appears to have been free of warfare. It seems to have been egalitarian, and it seems to have been a world in which the feminine principle was honored and revered. And so the artifacts that she presented inspired my work, which led to the creation of a large installation piece that I did in San Francisco called the Shrine of the Bird Goddess.
Oh.
So in a few years, I went from these little tiny goddesses appearing in my nature-based work, which I was doing when I was living in Greece, to a huge 12-foot by 6-foot painting with 5 bird goddesses as the centerpiece of this installation.
Wow.
So it was like, I felt like, okay, that's it. The goddess has touched me, called me. She says, "You are here.
The
You
goddess,
are here
the
to put
goddess
me
has
out in the
arrived and
world."
magic is afoot.
Yeah. And then after that, it was another year or so later, I discovered the little red book called Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth. It was
Yeah.
written by Samuel Noah Kramer, who's an eminent Sumerian expert, and Diane Walkstein, storyteller and folklorist. So in this book, they presented the Sumerian goddess Inanna
Yeah.
as one who represented the totality of woman. And it really struck me. It wasn't all broken up into the goddess of love, the goddess of this, the goddess of that. She was everything.
Right.
She was the maiden, the wife, the queen, the lover, the enactor of life and death ritual, and the giver of
Right.
civilization to her
The
people.
triple goddess.
Oh, she was more than the triple goddess, even.
Yes. But all
uh,
encompassing life, death, and rebirth.
all encompassing everything, every aspect of life she
Right.
encompassed. And that really put me on a journey of painting parts of her story for many years. So by this point, I was really firmly rooted in expressing goddess and sacred feminine beliefs, and which to me, the main underlying tenets of this worldview are the belief in the interconnectedness of all life, the unity from which our world of duality arises, the need to seek balance within that duality, and that our physical life is a beautiful and cyclical manifestation of spirit. Yeah, there's difficulties here, there's pain, there's suffering, there's death, but if grounded in love, we have a beautiful world. The Goddess Way really calls us to honor and protect the natural world, which is our home. And so that's really
Absolutely.
important today. We need that. We need that word out there.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very holistic approach and it's nature based.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it because I
Yeah.
believe that nature is sacred.
I do too. I do too. And I
Yeah.
think the goddess really, couples up with that very well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, I continued to explore various goddesses in my work. And then I also ended up spending some time working with sacred
Oh,
geometry. And I
right.
painted numerous paintings of trees, which often end up looking like dancing women.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so now I often will embed sacred geometry and Celtic symbols in my work.
Yes, I've noticed that.
And to me, these are like symbolically pointing you to the interconnectedness of life.
Right.
And so then, speaking of Celtic symbols, the path to my deck of Celtic goddess oracle cards began with a little painting of Brigid, an important Celtic goddess. And
Hmm.
I'm sure, Bridget, that you're aware
Yes.
that her mother's
Very
name is,
aware.
and that she's worshipped as Saint Bridget by Christians today.
Yep.
Anyway, at about that same time, I was invited to write a monthly post for the blog site Feminism and Religion. So these two events gave birth to my 5-year journey with the Celtic goddesses as I developed each image and story for the deck.
Just a second here, Judith. Who starts or who published Feminism and Religion?
Well, I'm not 100% sure who really started it. It's a group of people. I know
Okay.
Carol is involved with it, but
Okay.
there's other people also. So I'm not really sure if someone
Okay.
else started it and invited her. They have a whole bunch of different authors
Got
who
it.
published
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
And you can find things about all kinds of all different kinds of religions.
Yes.
Not only people who are into the goddess.
Right. Okay. But that's where you started writing. Okay.
That's where I really started writing in a way that I was, I've always kind of written, but I never was putting that out there, nor did I ever think of myself as a writer. I just thought of myself as a painter.
Well, I have to say, Judith, that like when I first started my Circle of Luna here in Seattle, which is a goddess-based moon spot circle, I did a lot of research, of course, and in reading, and sometimes I would come upon your blog posts, and that's how I started to notice you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a great spot for me. It really has been. I've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so grateful to the people who keep it running because it takes work. Everybody's trying
Yeah.
to keep it
But
going.
that's where I noticed your painting as well as your interest in the goddess. So I
Yeah,
never forgot that.
great, great. But the creation of this deck of the Celtic goddesses has really affected me personally. As for the first time, I learned about and connected with the wisdom of my own ancestors, the
Hmm.
Celts, who have an earth-based spirituality. I've always been into mythology, but I really didn't know anything about Celtic mythology before. And it's as if some genetic memory has been awakened, and I feel even more connected to Earth and all her beauty than before. And interestingly enough, it's also changed my style of painting somewhat, moving from a more expressionistic and somewhat abstract interpretation
Right.
into a slightly more illustrative style.
Right.
But all those years of throwing paint at large canvases is still with me. And even though this work is small and painted on paper, I still do a lot of losing and refining of the image. And there's usually a few paint splatters thrown in there.
Yeah, and I'm interested in knowing what media you use. Is it oils, acrylics, mixed media?
Well, when I work on canvas, I always work with oil. I've never
Okay.
worked with acrylic. I know a lot of people don't like oil because it doesn't dry quickly, and that's what I love about it. It
Yeah.
doesn't dry, and
Yes.
it allows me to discover things that I wouldn't have discovered
Yes.
because it's messy.
Right. And it can blend.
Yeah, it can blend, and then it's got that sheen because of the oil. It's just so
Yeah.
natural feeling. But when I decided to work on the deck of the Celtic goddess cards, really could not do that in oil because
Yeah.
each oil painting takes me a long time to finish, and I needed to work more quickly.
Right.
So that was when I started working for the first time small, and I started working with gouache on paper, which I'd
Right.
worked with some in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know what gouache is, but
Yeah.
people who aren't artists oftentimes don't know what it is. And I'll just say it's a water-based medium that's similar to watercolor, but it's not transparent like watercolor.
Right. It's
So,
pretty opaque and it dries quickly from what I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, and so well, it's water-based, so it dries quickly. But
Sure.
unlike acrylic, once acrylic dries, of course, you can't do anything else with it. It's dry.
Right.
Whereas and so, I've discovered, oh yeah, I really, I'm not liking this. Oh, let me just put some water on it and dab the paint off because I've got too much paint on it because the paper is going to fall apart. So, so yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, it's either oil on canvas or it's gouache on paper.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Okay.
worked with pastels too, but that's the main thing now.
Uh-huh. And do you show your work in galleries?
No, I don't currently have any galleries. I do everything online. I've done
Okay.
art markets in the past, and I
Yeah.
was going to start some again this year, but that didn't happen. So
Okay.
just online at this.
Yeah, it's a different art world now than what it used to be, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So from what you've shared, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of traveling. Have you found that travel influences your artwork?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, most definitely. For one thing, just the experience of being completely outside of my own comfort zone and immersed in another culture, another worldview, another language, if I'm someplace, foreign, breaks me out of my own internalized box and opens me up to new ways of seeing the world.
Right.
And though it's great to travel with friends or family, whenever I travel alone, I have a lot more freedom to sit and draw or paint things that I discover.
Yeah.
And that could be working outside on nature or street scenes, or doing little sketches of art that speaks to me in museums, old churches, or archaeological sites. And sometimes this work gets turned into paintings, and sometimes they're just a visual journal of my experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of ones that get turned into paintings, my whole journey with sacred geometry began with a painting I call Yellow Flower Mandala. And
Uh-huh.
that one out right after visiting many, many Buddhist temples on a feng shui pilgrimage I took with my sister to China in 2001. And on this trip, I hardly had any time for drawing. So something just stuck in my unconsciousness, I guess, which is kind of funny because I was really consciously aware of seeing lots of Buddhas. I don't
Hmm.
really remember that much seeing mandalas, but I know I did.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that was kind of funny. And then I've got some little paintings that grew out of sketches I did in the Mesopotamian, the Egyptian, the medieval, and the Byzantine galleries of the Met in New York.
Uh-huh.
I, I have a whole series of olive tree paintings, which I created from 2008 to 2012. And they were all based on little drawings I did of olive trees when I'd lived in the
Uh,
Great 80s.
that kind of reminds me of Van Gogh, who did a lot of tree orchard tree studies, and
Yeah,
uh, beautiful, beautiful olive trees are lovely, and they're so ancient and
they are.
so much a part of Greece. Their whole
Yeah,
agriculture depends on it.
yeah, yeah. And that's one thing. The on the island of Lesbos, it's covered with olive tree
uh,
art.
so
Yeah,
of course that
yeah,
would be an influence on your work, sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They were just everywhere.
Uh,
And then there's another painting I did after a trip to Paris in 2012. It's of a woman walking with a horse in a magical
yes,
landscape.
I've seen it.
And and I feel it was inspired by many hours I spent at the Cluny Museum with the tapestries, The Lady and the Unicorn.
Yes,
So,
very fun.
it's like, it's not a unicorn, but still,
Uh-huh.
there was some that it really kind of was inspired by that. And then I have a painting, My Black Madonna, that was inspired by the Black Madonna statues at the Chartres Cathedral in Chartres, France.
All right.
I can
Hmm.
never get the word.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and then a few years ago, I'd spent a couple of months living in the town of Merida in the Yucatan in
Yes,
Mexico,
I've been there.
and
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah, yeah, it's really wonderful. And I pretty much went out and drew outside every day. And one of my favorite drawings from this time is from a day trip I took to Uxmal, a Mayan ruin. It's
Uh-huh.
of a beautiful tree growing out of a fallen stone wall of the ruins. Someday that's going to become a painting indicative of the power of nature.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I got enough work in sketchbooks already to keep me going for the rest of my life.
Yes.
But oddly enough, I've never visited Ireland or Scotland. And since
Hmm.
immersing myself in Celtic mythology, I have had a burning desire to go. I was finally ready to go in 2019 when some personal issues delayed that trip. And then I was booked and ready to go in June of this year. But of course, we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic put an end to all of our travel plans. So
Yes.
hopefully next year I'll be able to make it over there and just feel the land and the people and visit all the ancient Neolithic sites that are found there.
Yes. And feel the energy, the ley lines underneath the sacred site.
Exactly. Exactly. Just to be there and to feel it. And I just
Yes.
know it's really important. I
Yes.
really have to do.
Yeah. Um, all right. So, Judith, how do you feel, or how do you see the goddess worship evolving into the future?
Oh, wow, that's a tough question. And I'm really not a psychic, but some
Yeah.
people are. But, I guess what I'm seeing is that as a species, a human species, we seem to be at a crossroads right now. And we can really see that clearly as all of the structures around us are breaking down. And this year has illustrated it better than any.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
it seems like
Yeah.
we can either move toward a balanced, loving, and harmonious world that's supported by this vision of the goddess way, or we can move toward total authoritarianism ruled by technology and military force. But
Hmm.
I personally find it hopeful that more and more people are following the goddess. In fact, I remember that when I first started working on my deck back in 2012, that a number of different people told me that interest in the goddess and oracle goddess decks was over, it was done. but never being very practical and driven by the internal need to create it, I just went ahead and did it anyway. And I've been very surprised at the response. And in
Good.
fact, interest continues to grow 3 years after its publication in 2017. I
Nice.
hear from women, and even I hear from some men about how much the goddess means in their lives. And we can also see that the old worldview of domination, fear, and hate of others is all around us too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, though the goddess way continues to grow in the hearts of many, I guess only time will tell which path humanity chooses at this crucial crossroads we're at.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
it's
excited about it.
I'm very hopeful that paganism, it's such a growing religion, and it's really taking off, will really have an impact on socio-political forms that we're moving into in the future. And with technology, I think our vision can be really enhanced for hope and prosperity for everybody, not just a select 1%.
Yeah, I mean, technology, just like money, is really just a tool. It's like, how do you use it,
Right,
right? And so that's where the consciousness comes in. And
right.
it isn't, I mean, definitely we're at a difficult moment right now, but I think
Yeah,
there's a large possibility that we're going to move towards something a lot better.
yes, yes. And it'll enhance our lives for a brighter and more hopeful future with the use of technology and a better vision and better leadership. So I'm
Mhm.
hopeful for that. Um, all right. So what are some of your upcoming artistic endeavors or projects you have for the future?
Well, when I look back, I can see that I've always really been very affected by story. I've been affected by myth and inspired by that. But it'd be like, okay, there's my inspiration, and then I'd go and do the painting. Um, but as a result of my work on the Celtic Goddess deck, I've found that I really enjoy marrying words with images. And
Hmm.
so much of my work now is focused in that area. I'm currently working on my next oracle deck of animal spirit guides.
Oh, when will that be out, Judith?
Well,
Maybe.
how many cards do you think I need? I figure if I cover 40 animals, I'm about halfway there, and I've been working on it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So maybe another 2 years, unless I could get that 48-hour day.
Yeah. Right.
Right? But I also have got a couple of fairy tales on the back
Oh.
burner in very, very rough beginnings.
Uh-huh.
And one of them centered around the reindeer goddess. So I'm really, really wanting this year on December 21st to start that and work on that intensely this
Uh,
winter.
on the winter
We'll see.
solstice. How
Yeah, exactly.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, is
And
that a visual journey or written and visual?
it will be an illustrated fairy tale.
So both
Or both.
visual and
Yeah.
written. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I've never done anything like that before. So it's like, okay, can I really do this? Well, I can try. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, and then hopefully get it published in book form, print book form.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, more than likely, I'll self publish just like I did with the Goddess deck.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
there's so many options out there. You could either go with print on demand or you can
Yes.
have them out and mail them out. But,
That's how I
so,
published my book, and they're both on Amazon. And then I published and narrated my audiobooks.
uh
So
huh.
we are entering a very empowered time of publishing and self-publishing with many platforms and options. So I think it's revolutionary. It's awesome. So I hope you
I
do
do.
it.
Yeah, I have recently heard an astrologer talking about this new, we're moving supposedly now really into the age of Aquarius. And one of the things
Yes.
she said is it's time for, she said, we don't, the superstars are going to be over. It's niche time, and everybody's going to be finding their niches and doing their work there.
Yes. I
So,
firmly
yeah,
believe that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Awesome.
that's exciting.
It's
Hmm.
very exciting.
Yeah. And then the only other thing is to satisfy my desire for painting large. I've actually started doing murals.
Oh,
Yeah, in fact, and of course the one that I just finished is for an elementary school, and that one was created using house paint, which
Oh,
was quite a challenge. It operates very different from
uh-huh.
artist paint. But it involves sharing information about the importance of trees to our world with the students, and then eliciting their visual
Oh.
responses, and then from that creating the tree mural on their concepts.
Oh, that's wonderful because you're
Yeah.
actually teaching kids
Yeah.
about nature and the importance of nature. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's something I really have a passion for and would like to bring to the schools even more. I've kind of partnered up with this woman who heads the Albuquerque school garden program, and she's the one who connected me up with the teacher. I mean, of course, this is all volunteer, but
Yeah.
it's really fine because it's yeah, it gives me a chance. It gives me a large canvas to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be
Yeah,
viewed by so many people. Think about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, with this particular one, I mean, the idea was really for the kids to be involved with me in the painting, but I had just gotten the design on the wall last spring, in the day before our governor closed everything down because of COVID.
Uh,
And our schools have not reopened, and so the teacher who it's her last year, she's retiring, and I don't know where I'll be next year, so we decided that we just had to move forward, and I had to paint it myself.
yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean,
It was easier than dealing with a bunch of fifth graders, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And trying to do it with social distancing and everything.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they're not even in school, so it was completely
Yeah,
acceptable.
yeah.
So anyway,
That's
that's
cool.
another thing going on.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. You have many things on your plate and are very prolific. And I really honor you as a present day goddess and bringing all your gifts and your vision to the world, Judith. So, in closing, do you have a website or social media or blog so that people can hear more about you and see more about you?
Oh, sure. My website is judithshawart.com. You got to be sure the art is in there, because there are actually two other Judith Shaws who are artists who I know about. And
Oh,
one of them
okay.
has the judithshaw.com. So it's judithshawart.com. And I also blog regularly on the Feminism and Religion blog, basically once a month. And my own personal blog, though I will admit I've been neglecting that one lately. I'm still waiting for that 48-hour day.
Yeah.
uh, and then, I have a Facebook page and an
Okay.
Instagram account and all.
And
Yeah.
it's all Judith Shaw art. It,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, the website is
right.
judithshawart.com.
But your social
My
media,
Facebook, yeah.
that's okay.
What happened? Oh,
It's people can look you up. That's fine. Um,
yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your vision, your journey. It's just been a pleasure speaking with you. And
Likewise.
yeah, and keep on witching.
Yeah, you too. All those great rituals you're doing over there.
Yeah.
I wish we were physically closer and I could join.
Yeah. Well, I am doing some smaller Zoom rituals with my coven, my circle, and
Uh-huh.
waiting for COVID to really end so we can get
Yeah.
back into doing on-site physical, in the real world rituals again, because they are so
I know.
meaningful and so fulfilling. And gosh, I miss them so much. So in the meantime, I'm going to be producing podcasts and keep working on my third book. And I just published my second audiobook, The Oracle of Luna Meditations with the Moon Goddess, Volume 2, where I
That's
narrate and perform, guided meditations for goddesses. So,
great.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
my plan. But
Yeah, that's
anyway,
great.
thank you again so much. And blessings to all our listeners for a bright and happy new year full of hope and happiness. Blessed be.